Hello, and welcome to AI Insights, the Executive Brief. I'm Ben's AI avatar, here to kick off another engaging episode where we explore the intersection of technology, AI, and business strategy. Each episode, Ben Bohman himself dives into conversations with industry leaders to uncover the latest trends and insights in business and technology.
I love the way tech has evolved. It's insane how far we've come, and especially cybersecurity. I kind of look at it like the more we understand how technology is evolving, the more that we can integrate it in ways where it's safe, but still we can like play around with it, right? Test it to the limits in a sense. And the cybersecurity side is knowing the safeguards of that, because I think it's fun to learn something new and innovative, but also know like the repercussions of what could happen if you don't control it.
Today, we're thrilled to have Kristine Konrad, a brilliant cybersecurity strategist who not only excels in the tech world, but also brings a deep commitment to the human element of technology.
I saw a statistic where it had said that 52% of CEOs said that their work culture is toxic. And I'm not surprised by that at all. Yeah. Going back to business fundamentals, you solve a problem, but who's the first point of contact with the customer? Your employees. I think people need to have a refresher course of interpersonal communication.
Beyond her expertise in cybersecurity, Kristine is actively involved in mentoring through Big Brothers, Big Sisters, where she's passionate about guiding the next generation. She also brings a unique flair to the tech industry as a stand-up comedian, using humor to connect with others and shed light on complex topics. Kristine's approach perfectly bridges the gap between cutting-edge tech innovation and the importance of maintaining a human connection. Hello, everyone. This is Ben Bohman with AI Insights, the Executive Brief. Today, I have Kristine Konrad, who is a brilliant cybersecurity strategist, technologist, and really has a good, I'd say, her finger on the pulse of technology in general. She also has, how we met was through her podcast as well. So Kristine, go ahead and introduce yourself. Introduce yourself as far as the technologist and strategist, but also a little bit about your podcast as well.
Yeah, it's so much fun to be on the other side. It's I'm usually the host, right? So like to be the guest, it's fun to see it on the side. So yeah, I love tech. Did I think I'd get into tech because I was in sports before? No, but I love the way tech has evolved from like the typewriter to like, what do we have now? The newest iPhone 16, they like released a little bit of like a model of it. Like it's insane how far we've come, and especially cybersecurity. I kind of look at it like the more we understand how technology is evolving, the more that we can integrate it in ways where it's safe, but still we can like play around with it, right? Test it to the limits in a sense. Right. And I work for FedRAMP 3PAO and a CMMC C3PAO, which is hard. That's like a mouthful to say that 10 times, but yeah, I work for them, which is exciting. We're doing some really cool stuff. And I also am a board member for Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Utah, big into mental health for youth. And then I also, like you said, have a podcast. So I keep myself out of trouble.
You're definitely keeping busy. I also like if you want to call them humanitarian efforts, but these side efforts like the Big Brothers, Big Sisters and the other stuff that you're involved in. I think it's important. I think whatever we're in, but in technology, I'm a technologist. I consider myself a strategist as well, but technology is what I do for work and everything, but I still have a lot of hobbies and I keep myself busy. I know some people, it's all about tech and that's all they do, but I like that. So what got you into those, like the Big Brother, Big Sister programs?
Yeah. So, and things like that? I taught and coached dance for a really long time, more than a decade. And I found out the kind of paycheck it has on like just basically being able to help, I don't want to say shape, but help refine. And because coaching and teaching dance is more than just that, like teaching dance itself. And I've had students come up to me after they graduate college. I mean, like, you've made a big impact and all that stuff. And that just like, that really like pulled at my heartstrings. And I am also a big, I think it's really important. We need more mentors. I know there's a saying that it's like, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to keep like an adult, I think, like, well, right. Like mentally well. So, I think mentoring, it also helps me too to see, like, it's fun too, because I'll ask my last little, she was graduating high school, and I just asked her what she wants to be when she grows up. And she actually is from Afghanistan. And so just a different outlook of life, right? A different culture, a different outlook, and just like learning from her where I can learn more about myself. And so it goes back and forth. And that kind of inspired me to really want to make an impact, specifically where I live, which is in Utah. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's awesome. And so another thing that kind of ties into that is our evolution, and we talked about the evolution of technology, but also evolution of careers and being a technologist, but now being a cybersecurity strategist. So you were over at Avaya, which
Yeah.
is obviously heavy voice, right? Like
Yep.
I mean, a voice, not heavy, it's a
Yeah.
voice
Yeah.
company. And then
Yeah.
you go from voice into cybersecurity. What was that transition like? And what inspired that transition? What were the difficult things with it? What were the things you really enjoyed about it? Tell me a little bit about
Yeah. So I just being really passionate. So in college, I studied marketing, I studied communications, human behavior, economics, and just like the market in general and where it's going,
that.
and call it forecasting, right?
Yeah,
Forecasting where we're going. And um, so Avaya, like they're bred, like they originated right on voice, right? Like
right.
that's like bulletproof voice. That's something that they're like just really skilled at, and they've evolved with their portfolio into different areas. And contact center again is one of their bread and butter. And I do think that's still relevant. I know it's not as like a shiny object, right? We're really tracing, like, I feel like the evolution of AI and also cybersecurity for some reason. I feel like sometimes cybersecurity can sound like a scary word because it's like, ooh,
Right.
cyber
Well,
attacks,
especially after
all that
this
stuff. But I
weekend.
mean, it's real, right? Like,
Right.
not to name names, but like there was one that happened on Friday that caused, Fortune 500 companies like $5.4 billion. I mean,
Yeah.
someone got fired that day,
Largest
unfortunately. But
outage in history, right? Yeah.
yeah,
Largest.
yeah,
Yeah.
like stuff like that. And so you try to be proactive, but things happen, right? Things hit the fan. But what really piqued my interest was, I do like AI. I love to figure things out too, like like basically the design, the late, like the how you interact with things. And same with AI. And then cybersecurity, and cybersecurity side is knowing the safeguards of that, because I think it's fun to learn something new and innovative, but also know like the repercussions of what could happen if you don't control it.
Yeah.
And so from Avaya, voice, I think voice is like the foundation, right? I
Sure.
don't think everyone has this like I don't know if it's like a topic for debate, but they always are like, voice is dead. I'm like, voice will not be dead ever, because people still send voice notes
Sure.
and voicemails and all of those things, right? And so voice will never, like, and I had asked my little, hey, if you have an issue, what's the first thing you do? Do you use a chatbot or do you use voice? And she said, I pick up a phone call.
Yeah.
So voice won't. So I like, from that, just to see how things integrate
Hmm.
and how they connect, because I've learned that could be a blind spot, but I assume businesses have things integrated and have things working, like communicating to each other, but they don't internally. And then that hinders externally with customers.
Yeah.
And I am a professional secret shopper, not so much secret because I'm talking about it, right? But there's things that break, and I like need help on things. And like, for example, I think stop me if I keep, elaborating
Oh,
about
good.
things, but I bought concert tickets,
Good.
and for some reason I registered it through a different email that was like, it was not connected or something. And I'm like, why can't I get the QR code to get into this place? And so I had to call the contact center person, and we walked through it, and we ended up figuring out the issues. And I was like, hey, curious to know, what provider do you have? Because it was really cumbersome, and usually like things should be easy, because I used to work in customer service too in college, and so
Right.
I try to like have remorse for people that are dealing with escalations,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
people can be very irate and kind of not nice.
Yeah.
So I try to like, come in with like, a smooth phone call, right? Like not like aggressive off the bat. And so he ended up self-disclosing, she or he, I should, specify she or he, not to tell the whole, story, but, and I was like, oh, well, they need to really work on their UX and
Hmm.
prepare customer contact center agents up for success, because anyways, so that's, I guess that kind of that answers the question, but yeah, that's what kind of piqued my interest. And then, especially enterprises like that, you'd think for a company that have like companies, right, have scaled so large that they have newer technology and working at past, like I worked at 8x8 too,
Mm-hmm.
you start to see these customers and these partners, they don't have the newest technology. Like they're still using Excel spreadsheets and you're like, well,
Yeah.
like, like no offense to Excel, but like, can we just like enhance that a bit? Can we just like move forward? Like people are using text messaging and, voice notes. Like we should move on a little bit than a static spreadsheet. So
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely a lot of advancement. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of advanced technology out there that businesses aren't using. But you're touching on something that I think is interesting with AI, and that's the human touch. And I know there's this concern of AI replacing jobs,
Oh yeah.
but there still is a need for humanity, right? There's still a need for humanity in business. And you talk about talking to, the call center agent. Now, here's another thought, and it's not an argument completely for AI, but it's where this
Yeah.
balance is. AI doesn't, even though there are biases in AI, we know that that's one of the issues with it, but it
Yeah.
doesn't respond off of emotion per se, right? So
No.
sometimes you call in and you might be frustrated, and then the call center rep gets frustrated, and now you're both frustrated. Where AI is going to give a more non-emotional, like direct response. And some of the conversational AI I've heard, it's like, okay, that's actually handled very well because there's no emotion involved. The AI isn't getting its feelings hurt. It's not suddenly, like upset about the day or the drive into work. And so it responds differently. But yet there's this other side where I do at times, I want to speak to a human and I want to have an interaction. Do you see maybe a pendulum that's going to go too far and do, hey, let's just automate everything for businesses, and then we're going to have to come back and be like, hey, we need humans, like we need that personal touch, we need that empathy, like where, like, does that question make sense? Where do you see that going?
Yeah, no, I kind of laugh inside because people like virtual agents and just like chatbots and stuff. It's like we've been talking about this for the last decade. I'm like, there's more to AI. Like, I think people need to expound that topic because there are way more solutions, AI solutions, like right, that
Mm-hmm.
can solve customer issues that don't have to always start with like a chatbot. So
Yeah.
but the thing is, I always I hear it all the time when I listen to analysts talk to, and I'm not going to name company names, but like, it's always the first thing to talk about. It's like, there's more technology than that. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's innovative. But I will say if, when people overcomplicate things, I always say, let's go back to the fundamentals. Starting a business is solving a customer issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
And doing it in a way that's more efficient and it's easier on the customer. I'll use a story from my mom again
Mm-hmm.
because she's she was 72 or 73. Anyways, sorry, mom, sorry.
Now we
But
know.
so she had to figure out things with insurance and she switched over providers and she had to start out with a chatbot. And it was basically giving her these automated answers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there wasn't a live agent right away. And it was basically telling her things that she already knew. And she was trying to get more answers out of it. And then at the end of it, there was a live agent. And she was like, oh, yeah, we're dealing with those issues. It's like she took 30 minutes to ask the same question
Yeah.
when the person could have been like, yeah, we handle that already. I think people focus so much
Yeah.
on how do we scale? How do we scale? It's like, how do you solve the problem or solve the use case and then go from there?
Yeah, and
I think
quicker too.
that's where we focus on. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just saying it quicker too. That's one of my, you
Yeah.
just brought up one of my pet peeves is when I go call into support somewhere
Yeah.
and I talk to the first layer of support and I explain everything to them and what my problems are. And then it
Hmm.
might escalate and I go to someone else and then they ask me everything that I just asked, right? And maybe that is the use case for AI is being that front line, taking good notes, organizing it, making it so that the next level has something good to go off of so they don't have to re-ask. But yeah, that I think that there are things when you talk about our regular human interaction of flow
Yeah.
within customer service that are broken inherently right now, especially when
Yeah.
you talk about technology and then
Yeah.
you get into telecom
Yeah.
technology.
Yeah.
which is even just for some reason it is even a larger problem. It seems like telecom companies really can't get out of the way of themselves often from a support measure, and a lot of technology companies, but it's a bigger issue. This idea of customer service, and I mean, I think AI can solve some of that. At least maybe organize a flow that's better.
So I think it again, this is another passion of mine is
Hmm.
coaching, leadership,
Hmm.
especially middle management. I think I think what we're talking about are like symptoms, big symptoms of the root problem. I think the big problem is training. I don't think middle management gets enough training. When I was unemployed for a bit, I actually interviewed for a contact center agent position. I didn't realize that it was because it was named something different. And then when I was on the interview, I was like, oh my gosh, I've come full circle right now. I'm like, I
Right.
come full circle. And so I got to learn like how, like, kind of like a day to day of, how, like, the expectations, right? And like just kind of like what they get paid on. And I was like, it opened up my eyes to see that side of it, right?
Yep.
And I think from that manager's position, if managers can get trained and kind of just coached how to handle like employees and like employee growth, I think customer service would improve.
Yep.
And I think people would be happier at work, right? Because I worked for a digital engagement agency, and we had a call center in Canada. And I love Canadians; they're the nicest people ever.
Not the
They
hockey
always say
fans. You
sorry. I
learn
feel
that
like
now that Utah has a hockey team, just so you know. And Canadian hockey fans are not that nice all the time, but the
oh,
people
really?
overall are nice. Just so you know, now that Utah has the team, if you get to go it again, you'll see what I'm talking about. But being a Vegas, Knights fan. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to
No,
derail.
hey, it's something that they're skilled at. I get it. There's probably like territorial. I'll come in with like maybe like a nicer lens, right? I won't get as
Yeah,
like combative as
right.
as they can get. But yeah, no, that's a good note when the season starts. But yeah, no, so we had it in Canada, and I shadowed one of the call center agents and just kind of what she was using. And one of my former colleagues from the digital engagement agency I interviewed, and he's an engineer, software engineer, and one of our big clients was T-Mobile. I'll name drop one of our main clients, and we helped them actually save a lot of money by unifying their basically their workflow.
Mm.
It's crazy that um, a lot of contact center agents don't have, like, they have to use like siloed resources, and when there's an escalation, you're like, oh my gosh, how, like, fight or flight, right? When things happen unexpectedly, you're like, how do I, it's good. I mean, it's good for the brain because you're building pathways of how to solve problems. But at the end of the day, it's like when you're training someone in and you train them successfully, they're going to stay longer with the company. There's actually like statistics for that, right? And then when you focus on their career growth, because there's like a study, I think it's like a 2-year itch, right, for people who are in jobs. It's like they want to try something
Yep.
new. And so for contact center agents, like if they're just constantly dealing with escalations, it's like maybe have them try something else. Anyways, just not to go down that rabbit hole, but I do think um there could be a lot in with AI, with coaching and training and all
Yep.
that stuff, because I do think it's important for that. Because I
Yeah,
think people
absolutely.
need coaching. Because sometimes when people get upset, they're like, the AI tool could be like, how about let's phrase it like this instead,
Hmm.
right? Like that kind of back and forth banter. And then languages, right? Language barriers. There's people that have people in India, and I will say the way they communicate is completely different than people in the US. And so,
Naturally, any
um,
country, right? Yeah.
in any country, yeah, in
Yeah.
any country.
Of course
So,
that is. Yeah. And I think as we start making live recommendations, especially in call center environments, and almost like a live call, like, hey, your tone's X, or reading tone, or maybe you recommend this, and having something on the side as a call center agent to look at. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting as we do that. Now, I've got so I'm going to loosely tie something into
yeah,
something that you do. It seems like it's a hobby, and then I'm going to get back. I got some cybersecurity questions.
yeah,
So just follow me here. So AI writing, one of the worst parts of AI writing is humor, right? Like you try to write humor into it. I think I saw that you do stand-up comedy. That's one of the other side thing, one of the many millions of side things that you do. You don't have to tie it in to the
yeah. No,
cat,
I
cat humor is horrible. But what got, yeah, What was your
Um,
interest in stand-up comedy, and
so
what's that like?
yeah, no, so throughout my life, people have been like, "You're funny. You should start a YouTube channel," or like, "You're funny. You should do stuff." And I'm like, "Oh no, no, I'm not gonna." But then I was like, you know what? That is a bucket list item. I'm gonna do it because most people don't. Like, I think that that's a fear of people, is to get up and try to like. And humor is so uh is it subjective?
Objective,
Object?
yes.
Yeah, subjective. I was like, in my head, I was like, that sounds like the right word, but again, it's Friday. Anyways, so yeah, so I when I moved from Minnesota, because I grew up in the Midwest, so if you hear any
Mhm.
O's, I'm sorry. It doesn't, I don't mean to, or sorry, I guess that's Midwest too. But I moved to Utah, and that was kind of like, okay, I'm gonna do it. It's now or
Mhm.
never. I'm not, and so I did it. And the MC, so I had a 3 minute stage time, and he actually let me go over, and he was like, "Yeah, you were funny." The crowd was laughing, and I was like, "I don't know." I like blacked out for a hot minute because I was so nervous. And but yeah, no, and then I did it again, and I got, obviously got better with time. But yeah, I enjoy making people laugh, and
Yep.
there's actually studies that you can charge your service. You can mark it up 30% more if you leverage humor.
Yeah.
So put that in your pocket, whoever's listening. If you can do it in a way that's obviously that gets the laugh, right? That gets the outcome. You can do that. Sometimes people say things and you're like, "Whoa, read the room."
You
Like,
have to
you
have
know
a
what I mean?
very
Like,
high,
whoa.
and we talk about
Yeah.
EQ, right? This emotional intelligence. You have to, especially when you're doing diverse audiences. I think standing up with stand up, you can kind of say whatever and maybe get away with more. Obviously, when you're in a business setting, there's got to be a higher EQ and read the room. Now, it's interesting because I do a lot of public speaking,
Mm-hmm.
and I've found at the beginning is that if I wanted it to be funny and I expected a laugh, it would just throw me off if I didn't get it right. So I try to insert humor into it. And if it didn't laugh, I kind of get nervous at the beginning, right? And then I started to
Sure.
find that don't expect a laugh or anything, just pause and then keep going. But with stand-up comedy, that or like stand-up, I think that's where it would throw me off, is because I would be expecting a laugh. And then if I didn't get it, every time I said something that didn't get a laugh, I would just start, sweating more and profusely like
Oh
freaking out.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I will say, so I stayed the whole time, right, to cheer on other comics, but you see a whole variety of bits. And
Mhm.
I found out that if you can make it relatable, right, and truthful, and you can do it in a way that's lighthearted, you'll get that laugh, because laughing
Yeah.
also makes you, it actually de-stresses you. So and again, when you're in stand-up comedy, you have all these lights at you, you can't see the audience, and you're
Yep.
like, okay, well, at least my mom's in the crowd, right? Like, I've got a number one fan, and then I've heard like two other laughs, so like we're doing okay, right? As long as I get three laughs, we're like. And yeah, and again, I try to like change up my set a little bit, because usually you do get loyalty, like loyalty customers, and so you want
Yep.
to change it up a bit, because there are a few comics that will say have the same bit, and you're like, all right, I've heard this for like the millionth time. But I do eventually want to do bigger stages, so like in LA or Las Vegas. But obviously that
Mhm.
will probably be a game time decision, because I don't know about you, but if you plan for it, like the almost the anxiety of the it's like a movie, right? Like, you're like, I know what's going to happen. And so like you start sweating more. So for me, it's if I
Mhm.
can make a game time decision and I know my set, then it's like that. It don't like it's a mental thing. I don't have that time to sweat. I like have to do it. So,
Uh, it
yeah.
makes so much sense when I started, and again, public speaker for years and years, right? But
Hmm.
when I started and I tried to be perfect, and I would be anticipate the events, and I'd actually script and write out everything I was going to say and try to memorize. And it's just one of the mistakes I made at the beginning of it. And then what I
Hmm.
found is I would almost think of ideas 10 minutes before I went on stage to speak, just because it was more natural. I know what I'm talking about. I'm educated. I know what I'm saying. So just don't overthink it and don't try to be perfect. And once I started doing that, it completely changed what my approach was, and even the reception from people I was talking to, because then I was able to focus on things within the audience and other things that before I was so focused on being perfect that I wasn't in the room and popping and doing all the other things that you get better at.
Yeah. And so to your point of public speaking, I've done public speaking for my former companies. And if you can use a personal experience,
Mhm.
I think I used to use case, and I made a joke about like my bank account affording a Porsche or whatever. And I didn't intend for it to be a punchline, but it did. I got everyone to laugh, and I was like, okay, all right, I'm gonna like try this again. So yeah,
Yeah.
if you don't set those expectations, right, to whatever, yeah, like less expectations, right, and more of like a natural flow, to your point, you'll get more engagement in the end. So
Yeah, absolutely.
mhm.
Okay, great. Glad we could
Yeah,
jump into that. No, a little
yeah,
off track, but off
no,
topic. Appreciate you humoring me with that. So
yeah,
let's jump back into cybersecurity. You work obviously within frameworks, and one of the frameworks you're talking about, and whether it's certifications, is the gov space.
hmm
Correct.
hmm
What is the difference that you see when you're working between private and public sectors, or government and just regular companies? Like what are those are you working with them both? Or are you having different conversations, or what is that looking like?
like private, public, like publicly traded versus private. Is that, or
Or
like, are
let's just say
you?
government versus, like, when you're having a conversation that's within the government versus a conversation that you're having outside.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, totally. Yeah, different. I mean, still the same because it's conversational, right? But definitely their end goal is a bit different, right? I think their concern is obviously like the CUI information, right? Like
Mhm.
in safeguarding that, I think both parties tend to do that because, I mean, obviously the government, because they're held, obviously
Yeah,
regulated. I mean,
from
companies,
a compliance
publicly traded
standpoint.
companies are heavily regulated, right? But government is, heavily regulated. So you have to make sure that the trust is there. But yeah, similar conversations. I think with commercial, there's so much that they don't know that um, I would love to like download them right away. But obviously, that's a lot, right? You have to like it's a rewarding feeling to help and support commercial companies be successful in a way where they can get government contracts, because I think
Mm,
that there should be like more people in the game. I think like the
yeah,
FedRAMP marketplace and just like CMMC within the DoD, I think that there should be more players because there are, I mean, the players that are there are great, like no offense, but I think there's so much cool technology that can be leveraged from the government that I think, to me, I find joy in helping them and learning like where their pain points are and how to make it easier for them to make sure that they can win those RFPs or those bids from
yeah.
either a federal agency or the DoD.
That's a good point. And I think sometimes smaller businesses get intimidated saying, well, I'm too small, I'm not going to be able to. But there are actually initiatives within and government, whether it's FedRAMP initiatives, where they're incentivized or pushed to look at small businesses. And there's a certain percentage of small businesses that they have to give contracts to, so that it doesn't monopolize to all the larger entities.
And you'd be amazed, but the FedRAMP marketplace, who, to those who don't like visit all the time, like myself, but the people that are moderate, like the companies that are moderate, they have sub companies, right? So it's
Mhm.
like that small company, if they don't want to go, if they can't afford it, because it's a high price tag, right? But
Yeah,
if they don't want to go like independent of their solution and they want to tag along with like a person who's going to be the main provider, I think that that's a good starting point because you can get a taste of what, because they're like you can get really great contracts, and from like a revenue perspective for your company, it like can kind of like set you for,
yeah,
I don't want to say like years, like I don't want to give it like a statistic, but it can set you up for a long time to help. You can be proactive for things, right? So you can get your like basically like pay your mortgage while you like go off and do something else. Or like enhance a part of your portfolio that you haven't paid attention to, right? Because you're like hustling to get, like your start,
yeah.
or go IPO. I don't, you know what I mean? If you're private, so
Yeah, there's stability. There's definitely stability if you're able to figure out that space and land in that space. I know. I think the biggest advice I can give on is make sure to understand the rules and regulations as far as applying and getting the RFPs right. Don't. I mean, it doesn't do any good to call someone in gov, from what I've seen, who, if you're not prepared, right? If you're not even on their buying list, if you're not even on a vendor list, if you're not even approved vendor, you're not going to cold call the CTO, within that space. and get traction. In fact, in a lot of cases they can't because it's RFP. But really, I guess I'm just saying, understand the space and get all the and line everything up properly before you just jump in, right?
Yeah, and again, I work for a third party, right, assessor, but I do think myself, I like to get a lot of, like when you go to the doctor, right? I like to go to a secondary doctor to get a different perspective, because it is good to get all of perspectives. And from a third party assessor, we work with both parties, right? So we have a different perspective of it, and it's usually more unbiased than if you were going to call someone from this, like a government agency or the DoD, right? You're getting a different, because they look at it through a lens that, a specific lens. And so it's always good to get, because if you look through that specific lens, then you're not able to look at the other things of like, oh, well, we can grab this AI technology. I had no idea. Like, let's bring this on. It's just, there's with a third party assessor, you're getting kind of best, I don't want to say best of both worlds, but you get, and then they've been assessed too. So like they've done it, right? They've walked the walk. So one, you get how they did it, or they can help you get there. And then the second is they've been assessed and they can do the assessment. So it's just like having those, like all of those things at your fingertips is awesome. So
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so now I've got a philosophy question. This is always interesting and this is what I love about AI. I think we talked about this a little bit when I was on your show, and there's just this breadth of conversations you can have from psychology to philosophy to technology, because AI is so new. And obviously you've heard of Elon Musk, the Neuralink, right? And I was at an event with a bunch of AI businesses, investors, and everything over last weekend. And one of the companies there, it seemed to be a break off from Neuralink with a brain chip innovation, and it's just amazing to me. Right now, they're using it for paraplegics, which I think is very noble and needed, right? Like to help someone be able to see, move, maybe talk, operate a computer who can't move, which is awesome. Now, if it got to where we could implant a chip in our brain, you could speak every language in the world, you could have unlimited knowledge, would you do it? Is that something where you'd be like, yeah, I'd be willing to, maybe my brain could get hacked, I'd take the risk? Is it something you would do?
I'm gonna say no right away, because I made a joke last week and I was like, I'm too dependent on Google right now. I like to be resourceful. Like, it's just, and if I have to depend on something for too much, I am like, whoa, like I feel like not in control of what I've learned, right? And I picked up this book. I didn't pick it up now, right? But I've been told the 48 powers, the rules, 48 laws of power. That's what it's called.
Okay.
From Robert Greene. I was like, for a second, I was like, what? See, your brain. It's like,
you got this.
yeah, I was like, if I had the implant, I guess I would have told you.
Right,
But then
exactly,
again,
yeah.
it's like, anyways, I like to be authentic. So I don't know. But I love world history. So it kind of just refresh of like, oh yeah, like it's good to have that. So if you have something implanted in your brain, it's like, it's not, people want to be challenged, not too much, right? Where they shut down, but they want it, like human behavior, they want to be challenged. And so I think if you're implanting something, then you're enabling it to not think for itself, even though it is in your brain, but it's like I think it should be outside, right? You're out, like it's outside where you can leverage it if you need it. But I mean, I guess like you can go down the rabbit hole of people who are like in a coma. I feel like maybe that would be a good starting point. Maybe that would be helpful to get them going again. But again, that would obviously that'd be a whole different test and a whole different like use case. But no, short
So
answer is no. I don't. Yeah.
you're like, no. So I had this I believe it was with Christian Hammer. He has a Techtastic podcast, and I believe it's him. If not, I apologize for whoever we were talking to this about. But he was saying no. But remember the show Limitless with Bradley Cooper, where they had the pill? He's like, but I'd probably take the pill. And he's like, because then I'd be smart enough to cure he's like, that's where I was wrong. I would be smart enough to cure the disease because if I'm that smart, then I would have been able to find the cure for, how the pill like degraded the brain.
Yeah.
So does that mean I don't know. I'm still like,
I
well,
think
the pill,
like we're in the Matrix. Like, what are we gonna? I'm just kidding. Yeah, I think I would take a supplement. I would call it a supplement, right? Well,
Okay, that's
the
softer, right?
supplement,
That's a softer
right?
delivery, a supplement. Yeah,
Yeah, because people take supplements to help increase brain activity, right?
sure.
They take that. So if it's a supplement, that's a lower dosage of it. I think obviously it'd have to be controlled, right? It'd be controls. Anyways, that would like get the government involved, right? Like all of that stuff. But or pharmaceutical, right? All that stuff. But I would
Yeah,
say if you're doing it to solve, like, cure cancer or do something that's like beneficial to the humankind, I think that there's ways to do it where it's not an extreme. So, but then you'd have to have like the anti vax or the anti like to get rid of it. So like if there's any, because sometimes supplements too, like depending on
mm,
what kind of drug or amino acid it does, or what, amino acid, I feel like caffeine is a drug
yeah,
too. Anyways,
yeah.
it does things differently to certain people, right? Like their brain activity and their brain waves. So I would think if there's a way to like solve it, like do a supplement, but then also like if the person goes manic, then to give them kind of like an not epidural. What do you call it when you get
EpiPen,
stung?
EpiPen.
Thank you.
Yeah,
See? Thank you. See, if I like this is great because we learn from each other. If I had something in my brain, then anyways,
it would
yeah.
have came right to you, right? Just
Yeah, it
like
would
that.
come,
You
but
want
then
my
it's like I
EpiPen?
wouldn't need your help. Yeah, I feel like because people thrive off of collaboration, they thrive off of connection. So I think if you knew everything, then I feel like
Yeah.
your mental, I think your mental health would go down because you're not, anyways, to go down
Interesting.
that
Yeah, what
rabbit
would
hole.
happen with the EQ? It's an interesting because it goes so
Yeah.
many different directions, and then also there's the well, if I have a chip in my brain, someone could probably hack it because that's electronics. And do I really want to open my brain up to be hacked? Like, what if they did a denial of service attack on my brain or something like that? I'm just like,
Oh
and
my
I
gosh,
glitch
can you
out,
imagine?
right?
Like,
So,
but then it's like Bluetooth, like, oh yeah, that would be, yeah.
yeah, it causes
I mean,
if
I
they
guess
want
like,
and go down it, it's a rabbit hole.
I guess if you had lost a lot of memory, it would make sense, right? Like I think, but
Yeah,
like to someone who is intact with their brain, all that stuff, I think it would be beneficial to do a supplement because people do it all the time with oh, what are the? It's like basically it's tyrosine. I think is it tyrosine that does the? It helps with the or
memory.
yeah, tyrosine. I think it's like basically it helps with brain function. So it's amino
Mhm.
acid that helps with brain function. So people take that to help. Uh, yeah, obviously I'm not a like healthcare provider or a
You sound
doctor,
like
so
an
like
expert. You sound like an
but things I've picked up, right? It's it helps like your brain activity. So I think if it's something that's a supplemental thing that isn't going to damage and make an extreme difference in someone's like behavior, I think that doesn't
yeah.
hurt. Obviously consult a doctor, right? Because doctors would have to do studies and all that anyways. But yeah,
Right.
no, it's an interesting topic because there is someone on in Utah
Mhm.
who I think she's from Wisconsin, but she puts a chip in her hand that
Mhm.
opens up doors in her house. Which, I don't know if I would do it. I think she first did it in her nail, like she like got her nails done and put in her nail, and then she has it in her hand where like it's all electric and
Yeah.
but she did get locked out once, so it doesn't always work.
Yeah. It's not
So
always.
yeah, I gotta have a backup,
Uh,
So
I don't know if
but
I'm ready to become more machine than human, but for
yeah,
me, the only thing that I think is language. Like if I could speak every language in the world, it would be. I think that would be amazing. But
yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of new innovation though. I mean, now with technology, so or with AI. So, is there anything particular that stood out where you've seen an AI tech, or like where you're sitting there thinking, I wish AI could do this? But is there any new AI tech in business where you've seen where, oh, that's a cool use case? Have you seen anything recently that caught your eye?
I forgot what the business is called, but they actually have videos. So there'll be an issue on a website and the answer will be in a video that's in their language. Like it will
Hmm.
be like basically a model or like basically how like every company uses the same stock image models, right?
Yeah,
So they'll use a video to help relay that resolution, so the person feels like they're actually talking to someone. I
sure.
thought that was really cool. Um,
That's an interactive avatar.
yeah, 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 yeah. And I was thinking, I've done some stuff in ServiceNow with their AI and like their assistant. I do
Hmm.
think I think AI is a sidekick to us who are I consider us the superhero and AI is
Yep.
just our sidekick. So that's how
Yep.
I look at it. I don't look at it like, I think people who are like, well, what if they take jobs? I'm like, laptops didn't take jobs. They created
Right.
different jobs and
Exactly.
new jobs. So I just think like, let's come down to planet Earth and let's figure out, you know, what it can be benefit, like make AI work for you. Yeah. And again, that's the only thing
Yeah.
I've seen so far. I'm just trying to think. That's a good question. I think
Well, I had a
anything that gets to the
thought.
agent faster or gets the problem solved faster. But yeah, have you
Exactly.
seen anything? I feel
Well,
like you've
I mean, a
been.
lot. I mean, yeah, there's
Yeah,
a ton out there, but I was thinking the force multiplier. I like that comment. Like, and I think that's a very, very marketing term, but that's really what it is. It's an enhancer for us as humans. And I do think that they do enable us to do our job more efficiently. And that's mainly what I'm seeing. And of course, I mean, most of the AI that I'm seeing that's relevant in business is machine learning that we've been doing for years already. It's just enhancing and progressing. And
yeah,
especially around data and analytics. I think that's really the business use case. And then there, I think pretty soon we are going to have an agent or virtual agents that we think of an agent as a phone agent, but virtual agents that are going to run our day to day. Where we're going to basically be like, go schedule this, go book a flight for me, go do this. We're not too. I mean, I'm speaking to one company right now that I consult with, and they're really on the pulse of that. So that'll be coming out soon, and even there's just some powerful stuff with that. So it'll be interesting how we use it, but like you said, if we use it to enhance us, to give us
yeah,
more free time back to
yeah.
focus on our day to day and the more complex tasks that AI can't do, that's where I think it gets exciting.
Oh yeah, I 100%. I think if you can have AI to do like the small admin stuff, like
Hmm.
the the small admin stuff of like rescheduling stuff. Um, Yeah, that I think that will be a powerful tool. And yeah, anything I do think first party data, I think we talked about a while ago, is like you think that it's clean. It's not like, and there's duplicate records and all that stuff. And
Yep.
I think if you can create a solution to help like clean it up, right? Clean it up, but also after a meeting or after a call, it does the summary, right? Does a call summary and it logs everything. I mean, I'm in sales and marketing myself. It is like after you get done with conversation, you're like, wait, what did we talk about? Like I'm trying to like get the, you know what I mean? Because you get so excited. Like it's human thing where you get excited and you like want to help and you lose almost like the logic and like the memory of, okay, well we talked about this, this, and this. And I get again, like at the end of the call, you're like, okay, here's a recap. But you also there's information that you forgot. And so I think with AI to be able to recap it and to input it as a record. And then yeah, I just think to your point, as I think it'd be a great sidekick. It would make operations go way better and people can be more proactive and you can scale. Anyways, just
Yeah.
makes it better.
So much.
So
All right. So last thoughts. Of course, we could, like always, talk for hours and
yeah,
just
yeah,
keep hypothesizing about different things. But last thoughts. I am interested, maybe about your take. I know you're a big advocate of mental health. Maybe last thoughts. I would love to hear your take on mental health in the workplace right now, and where you see maybe enhancements or just ideas on that, and then maybe how people can get a hold of you if they want to get a hold of you.
yeah.
Whatever you want to kind of close out with.
I think the current climate of culture is not great,
Mhm.
which I think culture is the backbone of a company because, um, again, I don't want to be like just generalize it for every right industry, but I think with COVID and with just like being able to be separated from interactions because like with work you bond with people from all walks of life and you work to get a resolution and it affects your mental health. um like I saw a statistic where again I have to look at the source because I read a lot of stuff, right? A lot of news, a lot of
Mhm.
statistics, and
Sure.
it had said that 52% of CEOs said that their work culture is toxic. And I was like,
Mhm.
I'm not surprised by that at all.
Yeah.
Not surprised. I don't know what size of company it was, but like the study, I have to look into that because
Yeah.
you also have to look when you read something, you're like, okay, where did they do the survey? How long did they do it? All that stuff, right? That all comes into play. But um, as just like, yeah, because going back to business fundamentals, right?
Mhm.
You solve a problem, but who's the first point of contact with the customer? your employees, right? If it's not you. And so to make sure that they're, I mean, you don't, as a middle like level manager, right? Middle management, you don't have to be a therapist, but also like asking them how they're doing. Like it's,
Yeah.
I think people need to have a refresher course of interpersonal communication, because majority of your life is one serving. So whatever you're doing for work, right? You're like what you're serving. And then it's like, it's who you love, or like who who you surround yourself with, five people
Sure.
who you surround yourself with. Right. So for me, I love to work. I enjoy it. Right. It's a passion of mine. And so that's a big part of my life. And so the people, one, who you work with and who you work for affect your mental health. And I think, again, I don't, the solve for it, there's a lot of solves for it, but again, it's up to leaders, right? Leaders, because you go to school. I had said this with, I had on a podcast with the general manager for Microsoft in government. I had mentioned, I said, you go to school to learn processes, not to manage people, to manage processes. And I think people need more coaching on that. Um, and especially with youth, because what happens as adults is sometimes we like kind of suffocate our trauma from whatever we dealt with when we were kids, right? But it comes
Mhm.
out in day-to-day stuff. So I do think everyone thinks like, oh my gosh, we got to get it done. But it's like, take a step back, like breathe for a second.
Yep.
And that's where like the strategy comes in. Like I love to execute things. I love to get things done. Like I'm a big doer, but at the same time, like when you're so hyper focused in something, this is where AI comes in. Like when you're so hyper focused on something and you have to pivot and you have to think like globally, you're like, whoa, I need help, right? Like you feel like I need an assistant to be like, how do we start a sentence? And so I think
Yep.
AI can play a part in that with, with reinforcement of like just positive thinking and just productive thinking. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of
Oh,
my viewpoint of
it
like
did.
people I think need to collaborate more. I think they need to be, it's not about getting things done. We need to yes, revenue comes, right? But like you have to think of, okay, your person is the first point of contact that touches the customer, and how they are and how they interact is
Mm-hmm.
what the customer is going to experience.
Yeah.
And everyone talks about customer experience, and which, yes, customer experience is important, but like customer loyalty is where you, that's like a championship. Like
Yep.
like you can have bad customer experience, but you have a loyal customer, they're not even going to think twice, right? Because they're loyal and they know that someone had a bad day. So
Mhm.
I think we get into this like frame of mind where it's like customer service. It has to be, yes, good customer service, but at the same time, like your employee needs to be mentally at a spot where they can be lighthearted with the customer and help them solve their problem, be set up for success. And that all goes back to onboarding and training and shout outs and,
Yep.
like touting culture, because culture is what people want to see. People want to see people. It's psychology, right? It's fundamentals. So,
Yep. Yeah,
yeah.
I love that. I mean, the motivation with people, it's not the old way of how people think they were motivated. And yeah, you can get more by squeezing harder, but you can get a lot more by giving people the time to mentally refresh. And if you're really worried about efficiency and productivity, then you can, again, you would be implementing procedures and policies that help and focus on mental health for your employees, because your employees are just going to produce more, be better, be more efficient. And 100% agree with everything you said. I love it.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And they'll refer top talent, right? Like it's just, it's like, it's a cycle.
Yeah.
And people are like, they look at the numbers again. I appreciate numbers, individuals, right? I like,
Hmm.
but also numbers can change, right? Statistics can change. Everyone's like,
Yeah.
this is what it is. I was like, no, it can change. Like you can modify that, you can influence it. And that's where, anyways, it's just like studying communication, studying human behavior, studying marketing and what drives people to influence
Yep.
is very fascinating. And if you can understand that, it's not, I mean, obviously, unless you're selling rocket science, it's not rocket science, right? Like I
Right.
always make that joke of
Yep.
like, it's not rocket
Brain
science. I'm like, well,
science.
it's only rocket science if you're selling it. Like that's kind of a little bit, because that's a lot of things. But yeah, it's taking a step back and knowing that like these people, yeah, these people are people. They're human
Yep.
beings with emotions and anyways. So
Love it. So talk about your podcast so people know how to like tune in. I know you just went on Apple. I think you just
Yeah,
started
yeah. So
on
I'm
Apple.
on. I'm
All about
excited.
that and get a hold of
Yeah,
you.
yeah. So I launched a podcast called Innovative Tactic Tips, right? Like, because I think it's important to understand practical tactics that you can apply to your daily life. I interviewed you. I love to interview trailblazers that have really made an impact. I started with technology just because, being in the world of technology, but I also want to expound it on in other industries. So sports and all that.
Yeah.
I would love to interview, obviously someone like a head coach, because
Yeah.
football, right? I would love to, because like think about like the mental capacity for that, right? Mental health with that.
Right.
That's in, and with the pressure of like the press. Anyways, so I started this podcast. It's on Spotify, it's on YouTube, and then it's on Apple Podcasts, and you don't have to pay for it. It's free, and I interview some really great trailblazers, leaders that have been through some really cool things, like a Green Beret, someone who transformed. He was Green Beret, and now he's working in tech. Just like situations that are not the average person would have, and just how their lens on how they view things and how other people can gain insights so they can apply it to their own life and be successful, right? Yeah, that's it. And then, so it's YouTube, all that stuff. And then I'm on LinkedIn. So you can find me there, and I'm on Twitter. So you can find me there too. And if you have any questions about how to get involved in Big Brothers Big Sisters, we're having a pickleball tournament in September. So if anyone's in Utah that's listening to this, please join, because it's all skill levels. Yeah, that's it.
Nice. Love it. Kristine, thank you so much. I know I had a blast talking to you last time when I was again on the other side of the table. And it's been just fun hearing your insights and just get your again some great insights and depth of knowledge and just a fun conversation. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's fun being a guest.